just joined us, welcome to Navigating Public Practice Resources, presented today by Keddie Waller. Now, for those who have not met Keddie before, Keddie Waller is CPA Australia's policy advisor, financial planning, and responsible for developing policy positions on financial planning and credit issues. She's over 16 years experience in the sector, and Keddie is a committed advocate for financial services, including quality financial advice. So in very good hands there, going ahead and unmuting you. Good day to you, Keddie. How are you?
I'm good, Michelle. How are you?
Fine, thank you, and all in your capable hands. Thanks, Keddie.
Great. And actually, Michelle, and everyone, just to let you know, I'm actually the head of public practice. We formed a new team in November last year, and so we're coming to you today to talk to you about everything that we've been focusing on in the public practice team to support our members in public practice. So, with that, we'll get into the presentation. Okay, so just a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. I'll talk about some of the things we'll be doing in public practice around advocacy. We have had a project looking at the future of public practice that will give you some insight and some understanding of what's coming your way. Talk about some of the changes we've been doing to our communication. We know that we send you a lot of information, and we know that we send multiple emails from different areas of the business. So we're trying to look at the best ways we can get you information that is timely and relevant. I'll give you an update on some of the resources that we've recently released. For those who have not seen it, I'll talk you through the 320 and the 325 tool, which are fantastic if you are looking at doing your quality control or risk management documents. And I'll also talk to you about some upcoming events. Just quickly, just wanted to talk about our focus. Hopefully you've seen by the messages and the communication and our actions and advocacy that, you know, we're very committed to advocating for our members in public practice. And we have a real focus in ensuring that all of the tools and resources that we're developing for you are both valuable and relevant for you. One of the ways we've been testing this is by engaging and piloting a number of these resources with members to get that feedback and ensure that if they're not meeting your needs, that we make changes to pivot to ensure that they do. We're always looking for feedback and ideas, so please always feel free to reach out to our public practice team and provide that. It's really important insight, because without you telling us what your needs are or telling us what you're actually looking for from a resource point of view, we're developing things without that insight. Okay, public practice advocacy. One of the areas that has come through as a key theme over the last more say 5 years, but it's really been an ongoing issue for a number of years, and it came through in my previous role in policy and advocacy, is the regulatory complexity that you as members are now operating under. You know, in the last 5 to 10 years, we've had the Tax Agent Services Act come through. We've had the Corporations Act have multiple changes, including the future of financial advice. We've had a new National Consumer Credit Act come through, which regulates consumer credit. And then there's been changes to other areas and exemptions like the corporations regulations. And what that's meant combined is that for you to provide different advisory services to your clients, you're often under multiple regimes, multiple regulators, and multiple costs. And all of that is impacting how you continue to advise and service your clients. So what we've actually been working on is a project to understand that better. And hopefully you will have seen the regulatory burden report that we released in October. Now, you would say, yes, we know regulatory burden is an issue. You're not telling us anything new. We know that. But what this actually did was brought to life the impact on you and, importantly, your clients of what regulatory burden really means. So for this project, we actually surveyed 1,000 consumers and small businesses and asked them their experience when they're seeking advisory services from their accountant. We also opened up the survey to all of you in public practice, and we asked for your feedback. What are your challenges and what are you seeing on a daily basis? Because we can understand some of the impact from a policy perspective, but we can't always see and understand the impact that it has at the coalface. So that's why your insights into this report were so important. Now, I'll just go through a couple of the key things that came through from this report. Okay, cost. Now, as you can see, what we've actually gone through and done is looked at the potential costs that you are incurring to provide different advisory services to your client. Now, we actually went through and road tested these with a number of members and advisory committees here in public practice. And you can see that, you know, the cost that you're incurring before we even turn the light switch on is very significant. And that has an impact on how you can both charge and be able to provide those services to your client. For those of you who may be providing financial advisory services and you're working as an authorised representative, there is a fee there of around $33,000. Since this report has come through and the changes that have been happening in the sector, I'm sure you've all seen people like the Big Four are divesting. Count was sold about 8 years ago from Barry Lambert to CBA for about $273 million. It was recently sold for $2.7 million, just showing you some of the impact. We're now hearing that the cost of being authorised is actually around $70,000 a year. So there's significant and real impact that they're going to have on you in providing services. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just having... Okay. Apologies, people. I'm just having a little trouble with my screen. Here we go. Okay. So, as I said, when we went through and we were talking about the impact of the cost and the regulation on the provision of advisory services, we actually found that about 1 in 3 or a third of our members are considering to cease offering one or more advisory services. We found that 25% of you are spending over 20% of your revenue just to meet compliance obligations, so just to continue to meet what you need to do to meet your different regulatory requirements. The one that really sticks with me and the one that was very concerning, that on average, a small business or you in public practice are hiring 2 full-time employees to meet your compliance obligations. So that's a significant investment for you as a small business owner, as I said, just to meet your compliance obligations, not actually generating any revenue or value back into the practice. And we also found that the regulatory environment and the complexity is not just having a financial impact, but it's impacting the way that you can actually engage with your clients. You know, a lot of you feel hamstrung by the different regulatory frameworks, being forced to change hats when you're talking to your clients depending on the topic, and that's starting to have an impact on how you engage with your clients. Now, as I said, about a third of you told us that you're thinking about ceasing one or more advisory services. Not surprisingly, the biggest area was financial planning advisory services. The changes and the reforms on that area are significant and costly, and they're still ongoing. Interestingly though, SMSF audit services was another key area that many members talked about looking that they'll move out of, and business advisory. Now, business advisory is something that we can see as a real value add for you in public practice. And in fact, in a different report that I'll talk about later on, we surveyed, again, 1,000 consumers and SMEs in a different research. They said about 30% of them said they're looking for more advisory services from you as a professional accountant, and one of the key areas and opportunities was business advisory. I should have said at the start too that if you have any questions you'd like to ask through this, as Michelle said, please put them in the chat box. I'm happy to go through if there's something that comes up on a slide, and we can talk about it at that point, and then we'll be able to cover any of the questions at the end as well that I don't get to cover. Okay, so as I said, even though we have members saying that they're looking at ceasing advisory services, the report came through that consumers and SMEs are actually looking for more advice and services. Now, the #1 area that members were looking to cease was financial planning, yet from a consumer and SME perspective, that is the #1 area they're looking for advice in. Now, from our perspective, that's not surprising. We have an ageing population. We have forced retirement savings through superannuation. If you're a small business owner, your business is often your retirement nest egg. But the other challenge that we have is low levels of financial literacy in Australia. So I'm sure when you're dealing with your personal and SME clients, you will come across some difficulty sometimes in explaining financial concepts and recommendations to them. And that's why advisory services are so key. As you can see, and as I said, business advisory was a key area as well for SMEs. But the other opportunity and an area that not many of our members actually operate in is consumer credit and advisory services. Now, I spoke before that the consumer credit is regulated under the National Consumer Credit Protection Act. You do need to be licensed as a credit representative to provide that advice, but there is strong demand from consumers and SMEs for advice in that space from their professional accountant. Aged care advice, again, ageing population. Now, just to be clear, you don't need to be licensed or registered under a specific regulatory framework to provide that type of advice. It would only be if you're recommending the sale of a financial product, for example, to fund the bond to enter in aged care, for example. But that is an area that there is an opportunity that you can upskill yourself and provide those value-added services to your clients. When we launched the report, we actually received quite a lot of media. I'm hoping that if you didn't see it through the communication channels from CPA, that you did from the different media. We had articles in the Australian Financial Review, both online and in print, different trade dailies, and we actually had a lot of attention from regional media. So we had a lot of interest from those smaller community papers, because again, we have a lot of members in regional and rural Australia, and this is not just an issue, you know, in Metro, this is an issue across Australia. So as I said, we're looking at our communication channels, but hopefully when you're looking at these other areas and mediums, you're seeing the types of activity and advocacy that we're doing on your behalf. Now, the report was really just the start of the process. The idea behind the report was to be able to quantify and qualify the impact of regulatory burden on you as a professional accountant and on your personal and SME clients. What this has done is given us a platform, and what the intention was is that we were looking to use it to develop a roadmap to regulatory reform. Now, we've since had discussions with Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand, and also the Institute of Public Accountants. And we've actually, and no surprise, we're all talking to our members about the same issue, and you're all experiencing the same impact. So we've actually come together for the first time in a number of years to work together on this issue, because it is so fundamentally important to our members and also to the public interest to ensure that there is the ability for professionals to provide advice. And what we are looking to do collectively is to actually review the current regulatory frameworks that you have to operate under and identify ways that we can reduce that complexity, remove inefficiencies and duplication, improve and drive harmonisation, and essentially build a regulatory road or framework that enables the ability for you to provide affordable quality advice to your clients. We want to encourage professionals and accountants like you to actually give these advisory services to your clients. We know that there is a demand, and we know the current environment is making that problematic. So if you haven't seen it, CPA Australia did release a podcast about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It is myself talking to one of your peers, a fellow member, about their personal experience as a professional accountant providing different advisory services. For those who may know him, Stephen Jones is the current chair of our Public Practice Advisory Committee, and as I said, he's running a small practice in eastern suburbs of Melbourne, and he speaks and talks to me about his experience of regulatory burden. So if you haven't had that podcast, I'd encourage you to go and have a listen. Now, Michelle, we're just going to play the video next, if that's okay.
Absolutely fine. So just a reminder, there are a few of you who have dialed in. You won't hear the audio if you are dialed in, but there are obviously captions at the bottom of everything there, so you won't miss out, and it will be in the recording as well. All right, going ahead now. Thanks, everyone.
Great. So hopefully from the video you can see the commitment that we have around this issue because it is so key. Importantly, just to clarify, when we talk about advisory services, we're not just talking about financial planning, we're talking about business advisory, taxation planning, structuring, debt consolidation, all those types of areas of advice that you can add value to your clients. If you haven't been engaged in this project and you'd like to provide some feedback, you can email us at regulatoryburden@cpaaustralia.com.au. Michelle's going to pop that email address in the chat box. What is really powerful when we're advocating and engaging with stakeholders like the government and regulators is not just the impact in terms of the regulatory compliance, but what that actually means in practice and how it impacts your clients and you when providing their services. So if you've got examples you'd like to share, we'd really encourage you to send them through. And if you have any thoughts or areas that you believe we should be focusing on as part of this project, again, I would encourage you to send those examples through to CPA Australia at that email address. Okay, on to another area that we've been talking about. We know that, as I was saying before, that business advisory is an area that is a growth opportunity and a value-added service you can provide to your SME clients. And what we've heard from feedback from members is that we haven't provided you with the knowledge and skills or training that you need to really provide those services to your clients. So what we are putting together is a new e-learning series called My Firm, My Future. And essentially it'll use a e-learning program that is being developed into modules that you can work through from end to end, or you'll be able to come in and just pick up bite-sized pieces of learning. Now, we've launched 2 modules as part of this project. We'll be looking to potentially launch 2 more this side of Christmas, and the remaining modules in the framework will be rolled out and should finally all be delivered by, hopefully before mid-2020 is the framework we're currently working to. Now, as I said, these are really designed at providing you with the knowledge and skills, 1, for you to be able to run your own business, but 2, to really be able to provide those value-added services to your SME clients. Now, the 2 modules that we've released already, the first one is Engaging Clients. It is available if you go to our website, to the Public Practice portal. You'll be able to go through. This program, or these modules, are complementary. So as a member of CPA Australia, when you actually purchase, when you actually select these for your cart, they will be complementary. You do need to put in your member number and log through to do that, and once you go through, it will actually take the price down. There is a price when you first come into these. Each module has been designed with some videos that you go through. It then has resources or some tools that you can use to then implement that. So the next one, for example, segmenting your client base, gives you an example on how you could go through and look at your client base in terms of the different value they're providing your practice, to understand more about, what clients you can focus on for different services, and then it gives you a way or a template to actually use that to look at your own client base. As I said, they are designed to be bite-sized pieces of learning, so they are around an hour each. And once the program is delivered, you will be able to work through end to end, or you'll be able to pick up and do them in a particular area if you're looking, for example, like marketing. Now, I spoke earlier about the importance of your feedback. So when we actually developed these 2 modules, we actually road tested them as part of our public practice conferences in both Lorne and the Hunter Valley. And we went through and each of the modules, and we asked the members in that room, is this valuable content? Is it relevant to your business? And I'm very pleased to say that over 97% of members said yes, it was valuable and relevant, which is fantastic because that gave us the ability to come back and build the business case to develop the rest of the program. But importantly, like I said, we are really focused on that voice of member. So when you're looking at any of our resources, tools, or these programs, we're always seeking your feedback. Don't be afraid to get in contact with us. We're always looking at how we can improve our offer. Okay, so as part of the My Firm, My Future, we also looked at how we can help you think about the future opportunities and challenges that you may face as a practitioner. And so we actually, as I said earlier, conducted a separate survey, where we spoke to consumers and SMEs, as well as yourselves as practitioners, and spoken and sought your views on what are the future opportunities and challenges from a practitioner's point of view, and from a consumer and SME point of view, what's the future areas of support and advice you're looking for. Now, the report is going to be released at this stage towards the end of this week, if not early next week. It is called My Firm, My Future, and it is, like I said, looking at the next sort of 5 years at what you should be looking at from a practitioner point of view. It will have with it 4 videos that will be released where we've interviewed peers who are picking up on the different themes I'm going to talk about in a moment, because one of the focuses of this that we'll be working on next are practical guides. Now, it's easy for us to provide you a report and say, these are the things you should consider in the future, and leave it at that. But we know that's not what you need as a practitioner and a member running a business. So the point of the guides will be to actually say, this is what we've identified, this is how you can think about it and look to implement it within your business. Now, again, if you are someone who is interested in any of the areas that we're going to talk about, we'd really encourage you to reach out. Again, we'll be making sure that we go through and test and develop these concepts and these guides with member feedback, because we need to make sure that it will be valuable and relevant in your practice. 4 key themes that came through as areas that you need to think about in the future are leveraging technology, looking to specialise, incorporating advisory, and better business. So just to touch on those areas, leveraging technology. Technology came through as one of the biggest challenges for members who completed the survey. Not because they don't know that it can drive efficiencies and improve the value of their practice and their way that they can engage with their clients, but more so because they don't know what technology to look at. There's concerns around investing in technology that may become redundant, or technology that may not meet their client needs. So one of the things that we'll be focusing on the practical guides is actually the knowledge and the insight to help you work through those challenges and those questions to see how you can best implement technology in your practice to actually derive that efficiency. Looking to specialise. Quite often when we think about specialisations, we think about a particular area, so, you know, providing business advisory, for example, but it can also mean focusing on a specific sector and becoming an SME in that area. So we'll be talking about that. Incorporate advisory. Again, that's looking at where you can provide those higher value, higher margin services to your clients and really get the value and drive that client relationship. We spoke earlier out of the regulatory burden report that there is a real drive and need from consumers and SMEs around advisory services and things like business advisory. So we'll talk to you about how you can look to move into those areas, and that will be supported through our My Firm, My Future e-learning series as well. I should also mention with the My Firm, My Future e-learning series, we will be running a number of workshops around Australia on that topic as well, around February, March next year. And we will also have a 5-part webinar series for those who are unable to attend the workshop. So we'll be looking to complement that e-learning offer with a more practical way to actually work through that content. So as I said, the report's coming out this Friday. Keep an eye out for it. It will be on our website. It will be promoted through Tax News and Update. We won't hit you with another email, which you'll be happy to know to say it's released, but we will be promoting it through those channels, so keep an eye out. Okay, as I said, for 2020, we will have future focus on how we can help you, and that includes looking at the current public practice pathway to a public practice certificate. So we'll be looking at making improvements to that. We are looking at doing further research around regulatory burden and looking at the value of advisory services. We will have a clear focus on business advisory and providing you with e-learning, workshops, webinars, as well as the guidance and support that I spoke about. And for those of you who may be in financial planning, we know FASEA is a significant concern and area of, that's impacting your decision to stay in this sector. We are continuing to engage and working on this. For example, we were present at the recent consultation on the Code of Ethics guidance, and that'll be a key area that we'll continue to work on with the policy and advocacy team. Okay, so moving on to some other areas. So,
just before we do, we have a question from Sandy about the business advisory focus. So she says, my firm has a strong business advisory focus, however we are finding it difficult to get clients to see the value in advisory services. Whilst they say they want these services, when it comes to the crunch, I'm not seeing this conversion. Is CPA able to assist in this area?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sandy. So, and it's funny, we were talking about this earlier today, and you know, it's easy to answer a survey and say yes, you want something or you're prepared to pay more for it, but when it comes to the crunch, it's not always the case. One of the reasons that we'll be looking, just going back to my previous slide, about the value of advisory services is so we can actually demonstrate and use that as a campaign, a public awareness campaign. So one of the things we're hoping to get out of that research is case studies where we can work through from an SME perspective at the different areas like business advisory and show the actual value and difference professional advice can make to their business. And one of the things we're looking to do from that is actually be able to go out and then advocate on your behalf and promote on your behalf the value of seeing your accountant with this knowledge to actually improve the business outcome for that SME. So that'll be one of the things we'll be looking to do. I'm happy for feedback, Sandy and others, if you have ideas and other ways we can help promote the value of that advice. And it could be also something that we'll look to include in our webinar and our roadshows workshops, talking about how to actually market and demonstrate that value. So, as I said, looking for feedback, but we definitely will be looking to focus on that as part of our broader business advisory strategy in 2020. Okay. Now, hopefully as a member you will know some of these things, but I find quite often when I'm talking to members about all the different resources and tools that we have that they don't always understand the breadth and the depth of our offer. So we do have our In Practice monthly email, and the focus on that is trying to provide you with insights and practical knowledge to help you in your practice. Tax News is more of a technical focus for those of you who haven't seen that. It's not just focused on tax, it has a lot of superannuation in there as well as updates from the regulators for and things that might be coming through. We have CPA Update. If you look in that one, we often will be promoting our latest submissions made on your behalf in the policy and advocacy area. But the other thing that you may not know is we're always seeking member feedback on and input into the consultations. So if you do see an area or you know that there is a bill or something that's being consulted on, you can actually jump onto the website under the media area, and Michelle's going to post the link in there, and you can actually jump on and see all the open consultations, and there's an email address for you to provide feedback, and all of that helps feed into our policy positions and our final submissions. So I'd really encourage you, as I said, to get involved in that, because you actually bring to life how things happen at the coalface or point out how something may not work in practice. We have our annual public practice conferences. So we have Hunter Valley, Lorne and Brisbane are all booked in for 2020. And then in other states we have our public practice forums like Canberra and Perth. Perth, for example, is already booked in for the 20th of Feb next year if you're based in Perth. We run live webinars every month like this one, which are complimentary and focus on different things like professional indemnity insurance, professional, our PSC capital liability scheme, resources and updates, TPB present as well. So always keep an eye out for these. And as I said, we've always got our research and reports. We have actually made some changes to the CPA Australia public practice landing page. So if you haven't been on there lately, I would really encourage you to jump on and have a look. We know from our own experience, let alone yours, that it's not always easy to navigate the website, and that can make it challenging when you're trying to find different tools and resources that we have. But what we've done is actually, when you come to the portal now, in the top right side, you'll see that we've actually broken 4 boxes down to try and make it easier to find what you're looking for. So becoming a public practitioner, for those of you looking to start your career as a public practice owner, starting your practice, managing your practice, so guides and tools that you'd be looking for as a day-to-day business owner, and succession planning. We also have on the website a news and update box now to try and bring to life anything that's new to the area. And basically, I'll just jump to the next slide so you can have a look. This is what it looks like. And so as you can see, we have a news and update to try and bring up anything that's new, to try and make it easier for you to see what's coming up, as opposed to try and read and find about it in different pages. We do, up the top, also have the compliance and legislation area to try and again, make it very specific. And it is broken down into Australia and New Zealand. And then your toolkit, where there is a range of resources, guides, templates that you can access. So if you haven't been onto the website for a while, I'd really encourage you to jump on, and then you'll be able to see all the changes we've made. We do have a broader website project that is being worked on with a view to being able to have a much more personalised experience. Now, that is a bigger project, so it will be some time away. So to try and help in the meantime, we have made these changes, but we're, like I said, always looking for feedback. So if you think there's some ways we can make further improvements, send us an email. Now, I spoke about In Practice being a dedicated monthly email to our members in public practice, and it really is trying to be focused on things that are relevant to you across the different public practice advisory service, public practice services. So just to give you an idea of what's recently come through, here's the most recent articles that have been in the last edition. We do look at the open rates and the number of people looking at each article to try and make sure that in future, if something's not being an area that no one's interested in, we try to recalibrate that. For example, there was an article recently on the portal going down, and that was very popular, so that is something we're trying to focus on. But again, as I said, we're trying to ensure that these content is relevant to you. If you're looking for a particular area, or you think there's a great article that we can put through that would be beneficial to your peers, again, provide us the feedback. We'd love to get your engagement, and we'd love to be able to tailor that more for you. And if you haven't actually subscribed to In Practice, let us know and we'll sign you up. Public Practice Concierge. This is a service that started a few years ago for two reasons. One, to support you better in public practice, but two, to also help you identify areas and resources that we can provide value for you as a public practitioner. So it is an opportunity for you to engage and have a discussion. It does help you identify how we can support you in areas that you might want to think about. If you haven't engaged in Concierge and you'd like to, please send us an email. The email address is there at ppconcierge@cpaaustralia.com.au. Send us an email through and we'll be in contact with you and be able to arrange that visit to be set up for you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the two tools now. Quite often, though, when we spoke to you about the resources and tools we've put out in the past, we spoke about the need to do this for a compliance obligation. Now, as a public practitioner, there are a series of 8300 standards that you do have to comply with. It is a part of the Code of Ethical Framework. We do look at it from a quality review perspective. But to my mind, that's not actually the value of these areas. The Quality Control Manual gives you your processes and systems so you know and your staff know what your business needs to do for your different areas of advice and services to your clients. So it ensures that you have consistency, it ensures that everyone understands the framework, and it makes sure you have a roadmap that you can use for your practice. So yes, having a quality control manual ticks off your 320 compliance obligations, but it can actually drive a lot more benefits to your practice than that. We know from feedback, especially for new members in public practice, that being required to draft your own quality control manual from scratch is quite daunting. Not having the guidance and the framework is quite challenging, and even knowing where to start. And so we've actually built a tool that you can work through that builds the quality control manual for you. So essentially you input a number of questions, you answer different questions that we pose to you. There are different areas that you can leave in or out depending on the advice and services you're providing in your practice. You can upload your own logo and then save a soft copy quality control manual for your practice. Now, it's a living document, which means if you need to go back in and make a change, you can do that and save a new version. All the members that I've spoken to who have gone through this tool have loved it. They've said it's fantastic. And even for those who have built their own quality control manual, the feedback I've had is that when they've gone through this process, it's helped them identify areas or things they may not have considered before. So even if you have your existing quality control manual, I'd really encourage you to jump on and go through the tool. Again, there isn't an option for you to provide feedback on there. So if we have missed something or you think something can be improved, always let us know. Or if you think the tool is fantastic or you know that you've had a really great experience, again, let us know, because that's all great for us to know that we're delivering something of value to you. So that link, if you click on that link within your slide deck, you'll be able to jump on there and go through that tool. The other one we've actually launched is the APES 325 tool. Now, again, it is a requirement as a member of CPA that you need to have a risk management framework. But to me, again, there is a bigger benefit to this. This is your guide and your plan for if something goes wrong. It's very easy in practice to think about the future, but not always have a plan for when things happen. This ensures that you have that plan, but not only that, your staff know about your plan as well. I was at a presentation the other day and a member was talking about the fact that they've moved completely to the cloud, and someone said, well, you know, what happens when the internet goes down? And the member said, we've got 2 4G dongles that we set up and we do this. Then someone said, well, what if that doesn't work? Well, then we've got a system where people can go home and they're allowed to work remotely. So essentially, they've got in place contingencies for working on the cloud and what happens when systems go down, and a way to actually mitigate that risk. That's part of your risk management framework, and that's the value of this. You and your staff have a plan for all those different areas when you're working in practice. Now, again, not every risk in this tool will be applicable to you, but if it's not, you can actually basically tick not applicable, or you can rate it very lowly. It will ask you about different safeguards and give you ideas, again, to go through and actually help you think about strategies to mitigate a risk. And again, at the end, you can upload your logo, save it as a soft copy, and then you have that not only ticking a box of many of your compliance obligations, but you have peace of mind knowing you have a plan ready if something happens to you, to your business or to yourself. As I said, it's really important that you not only go through this, but if you have staff, your staff go through this as well, and it can be a really great training and development exercise to work with them on. We have a number of new resources available at our Public Practice Toolkit. Probably one that we've had a bit of feedback on is the Engagement Authority template. We know that as you need to have that from your client with the STP changes coming through, so we do have that template you can take there and actually use. The STEAM manual has been updated for those of you in audit. We've also updated the Professional Standards Eligibility Scheme tool, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But essentially that helps you work through and understand if you're actually going to be eligible for the scheme. Tax and super guides, and we've also got a video about professional indemnity. So as I said, we do have quite a broad and deep offering. If you haven't been on lately, jump on and you'll be able to have a look at some of our new resources. Webinar recordings. All of our webinars like this one are recorded. So if you haven't had an opportunity to attend a webinar, you can jump back on and listen to one at your convenience. The policy and advocacy update on audit and insurance. Key things that you'll need to know if you're in those areas that have changed. IT for small business. As I said before, we know that technology is a key area for you, so that is another great webinar that you should be having a look at. And also the PI insurance offer. For those of you who don't know, we do have a PI product that has been tailored to ensure it meets all of the requirements of the bylaws. If you're not sure, again, jump on and have a look.
So just to answer the question from Darren, which is the Super Tax and Social Security Guide available as a PDF file? We're using at the moment a flipbook, digital flipbook, so it's not a PDF document as such, but let me know if you have any issues accessing it. I'll put, my email address is on the slides, one of the slides coming up, so you can just email me direct, Darren, if you have any issues accessing that.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, we also have a number of podcasts that you can access as well. We know podcasts are very popular, especially for those of you who have the joys of public transport to kill some time. Excel is a great one. We find we get a lot of engagement, a lot of great feedback on that. So again, all these areas that we are looking at different ways we can support you. Mental health, I know, has become a significant focus. And I know that it has come up as an issue a number of times. So again, if you have an interest in that area, I would really encourage you to listen to that podcast. Okay, we have a very broad offer of complementary professional development. And members don't always know that this is available to them. In addition to webinars like this one, and all of the webinars that the public practice team run are complimentary, we have a wide range of courses, events, podcasts, and resources that are free. So, for example, some of you may have attended the Policy and Advocacy Roadshow that we had this year. There was a number of locations, especially in regional Australia, that we went to, providing an update on the areas and the projects being run out of the Policy and Advocacy team. So hopefully some of you on the webinar at the moment may have gone to that. There's always local events being held. For example, those of you in Victoria, there's a new South East branch that opened up recently with a guest speaker. They'll quite often put breakfasts on. We have a wide range of discussion groups. Quite often we find that members are looking to engage with their peers, but they're not really sure where to start. If you jump onto the website under Member Services, you can actually access an entire list for all discussion groups in your state, and they are broken down into different areas. But if you're not sure, I would encourage you to contact your division, your local division, and they'll be able to put you in contact with a discussion group that's going to meet your needs. So, for example, we had an event in Perth last week and talking about how to become a partner in public practice. And that caused a lot of discussion, and great discussion. And one of the things that came up was, well, how do I find out more? How do I talk more? In Perth, we have a public practice management discussion group. So again, it's a way that you can go and engage with your peers and hear and talk about things you may be experiencing, or looking for guidance and, you know, how other people have handled a situation. So, like I said, we have a very broad range of complementary professional development. Get engaged, have a look on the website, talk to your division. I'm sure you'll find something that's going to meet your needs or be an area of interest. We do have a brochure available for our public practice toolkit. Like I said, we do have a very big offer, but the toolkit just helps give you an overview of what is available. So if you haven't actually had a look at that, if you want to pop Michelle an email, as she said, her email address is there on the slide. Michelle will be more than happy to send that brochure out, and you can just get an overview and understand the range of resources we have available to you. I did mention our conferences earlier. For those of you looking to pencil in your dates for 2020, we already have the dates locked in. As I said, Perth is the 20th of February. That is down at Scarborough Beach, I believe. It was a great location down there. Public Practice Conference in Lorne. We have our Hunter Valley Conference for New South Wales on the 11th and 12th of June. And then our Public Practice Conference in Brisbane on the 16th and 17th of July. Now, some of you may not know, but if you're actually a regional member or an interstate member, you can also access discounts to register. So if you're looking on there and going, well, there's nothing in my area, but you may have an interest in one of these conferences, when they come out and they are promoted and they will be available to register, I think it's early December. Have a look on there because there are discounts available to you if you are interstate and regional. So please jump on and have a look. We also will be running our Tech Exchange again in Melbourne and Sydney in 2020, and those dates will be available soon. Some upcoming webinars you might want to pencil in or register for now. For 2020, client engagement is always a very topical and lively discussion, and we get a lot of engagement on that one. So I'd encourage you, if you haven't attended one of those webinars before, to come along, and that will actually be a precursor to the end-of-year resources around tax time and tax changes. So those two you'll find a lot of value in, I'm sure. Cyber and data protection. If you're not really thinking about cyber and the risks around that area, really encourage you to attend that webinar, but also start looking into that now. We do have some information available on our website, but it is an area that clients have spoke about their concerns around data security and being an area for their consideration when they're looking at professional accountants. So again, to not only protect yourself but your business, make sure you're looking into that. Okay, so I did say earlier that we are always looking to engage and hear your feedback. And what we've actually put together is a way for you to be able to do that. We run focus groups, we have different tools that we test, we have workshops that we put together to come up with new concepts, and we're always looking for new members to be engaged. So if you would like to put your name down to be involved in any of those types of areas, or you have a particular area in a certain topic, be it audit or something else, please email pp@concierge@cpaaustralia.com.au. We can put your name down on our register, and when something of interest that you've nominated comes up, or if you're just anything you'd like to be engaged with, we can reach out and contact you and ask you to be part of a project. So as I said, it's really important that we get your feedback, because that ensures that everything that we're actually developing is relevant to you, because if not, we should be doing something else. All right, I'm just going to finish on this slide before we go into our polls and our open forum. 2019 has been a really busy year for public practice, and I hope through this presentation you've been able to see the breadth and the range of things that we have delivered. So we've had, as I said, the regulatory burden report, My Firm, My Future reports coming out this week. We've had the 320 and the 325 tool. We've had our conferences, we've had new tools and resources. Our professional standards scheme, which I'll quickly talk about, is also looking to commence on the 23rd of December. Now, if you haven't seen that, the scheme has been approved for 5 years, which is fantastic. It's a reflection of the work that's been put into that program and the team who's focusing on that and the governance around that. Importantly, there is a change to the scope though. As you know, under the current scheme, if you are in or if you're authorised to provide financial planning advice, or you are a representative, so you have a connection or an equity interest in one of those businesses, for example, you're actually currently excluded from the scheme for all services. So even if you're providing accounting services, that's not covered under the scheme. Under the new scheme, everyone's covered. So if you're a financial planner, if you're or someone who has an interest in a financial planning business, all of your accounting services are covered. Now, the two caveats to that are there is a provision within the Corporations Act and a provision within the National Consumer Credit Protection Act that actually prevents the capping of liability for advice to retail clients or to personal clients. So those two areas cannot be covered by the cap liability scheme. But if you are providing those services and you're also providing accounting or tax, for example, all of your accounting and tax services will be covered by the scheme. So that is a key difference from the current scheme. Now, it does mean that if you currently are not covered by the scheme, you will have to update to include your limited liability disclosure statement on your relevant templates and websites and things again. So I just want to flag that, because as your state is gazetted, and we are providing updates to members in each state as the scheme is gazetted, you will need to ensure that limited liability statement is on those documents. If you don't include the limited liability disclosure, you're actually not eligible to be covered by the scheme. The other thing that is mandatory if you want to be covered by the scheme is that you have PI that complies with the bylaws. So if you're not sure if your current professional indemnity policy complies with the bylaws, jump on the website and have a look. There are some key areas that do need to be covered off, but as I said, the limited liability and compliant PI are two mandatory requirements to be covered by the scheme. Okay. Just going to put a question out there. As I said, we're always looking for your feedback. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, we'd really love you to pop them in the chat box now and let us know what areas you'd like to see more guidance or resources on. So let's pause for a couple of seconds to give everyone a chance to start thinking and popping some ideas in.
So while we're waiting, so Mark made a comment, some feedback that it was great to see some online manuals that can assist, and suggested that a customisable engagement letter template would also be great. And just to let you know, Mark, that is something that we are looking at as well.
Great. Okay, so as you're thinking and popping those on, we are going to also go to a polling question. So we'll open this question up in a moment, but how do you keep up to date about CPA Australia resources? And you can tick more than one area here. So if we can open that polling question up, please, Michelle, and if everyone can take a moment just to respond to that polling question, and as I said, you can select more than one resource.
And don't forget to click submit when you're finished.
Just give you another 30 seconds or so. If you haven't had a go, please complete this, because this actually also helps us know what avenues and areas that we should be focusing on as well.
Just a reminder, it's anonymous. You have 10 more seconds to go. Thanks, everybody. And then click that submit button.
Okay, last chance. Great, thank you for everyone who completed that one. CPA update, it seems to be the clear winner, followed by webinars such as this. So that's great feedback. Thank you for providing that. Just so you know, if you're looking for specific public practice resources, in the Black will have some information but not as tailored. In practice will be more tailored, or events such as this. But thank you everyone for taking the time to complete that survey. Okay, now we do have a couple of seconds to go, or a couple of minutes to go. So I'd welcome any final questions that anyone might want to pose through. Got some great suggestions coming through as well. Quality review process, thank you for that feedback. I'm not sure if you're aware, but you can actually go online onto the CPA Australia website and access all of the quality review documents that the reviewers use, as well as there's a whole dedicated page and resources for documents to help you prepare for a quality review. So if you haven't seen these resources or you're not sure where to find them, we're going to post a link in the chat box in a second. But there is a lot of detailed information, but if you think there's some more guidance or something we can do to complement that, please let us know. The cheat sheet to tick off in regulations, yeah, that's a great idea. We will look at doing something around that. We do have some cheat sheets in super, but it's potentially something we could put out to other areas. And aged care, thank you for that feedback about that area. Two areas that we're looking to explore further in 2020 are actually aged care and estate planning. Again, usually as the professional advisor or accountant, you're the first person a client comes to see when something happens. So we know that they are two areas that you're likely already being asked questions about or will be asked questions about. So we are looking at what additional education and support we can build around that in 2020. No other questions come through? Last chance. We've got about 2 minutes left.
Sorry, there's one that's come to me privately. I'll post it again, but it says, when is the next on-site PPC event?
On-site. That will depend on the division. And it will depend if we mean public practice workshops or if we mean public practice events. If that person would like to email through to Michelle and let us know what they're looking for and what state, we can let you know the next and upcoming events in your division. And as I said, your divisional officers are a fantastic way to get engaged. If you haven't reached out or connected with your divisional officers, you've got great people in each of those areas and they've got really great knowledge about these things. So I'd encourage you to reach out and get to know your divisional GM or your divisional staff, and they can also help you understand what local events and things are coming up as well. Question around standardised work papers. We have started looking at areas that we could potentially collaborate more, and quality review, for example, might be an area, but we'll definitely take that one on feedback, and we'll look into that further. So thank you for that comment. Appreciate that. And then I'm actually going to close the session out today. I'd really like to thank you and for joining us today and to coming and listening to everything that we're doing in public practice. As you can see, it's been a really busy year and we're really excited about everything we've been able to deliver for you. So please get engaged and have a look at the reports and the research. We've got lots more planned for 2020. It will be another big year. So stay engaged, and like I said, we're always looking for your feedback. So thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Keddie. Really appreciate that. And thanks, Michelle, for your support in the chat box and all those links coming through. I think everybody's seen some great thanks coming through in the chat box to you both there. So thanks very much for that. So just a reminder that as you exit, you are redirected to a survey form. You might get a default page alert. Just click on that and go through to the feedback form. We really do appreciate your feedback. I know at times you don't always put that feedback in there, but when you do, it is taken note of. So thank you very much. Otherwise, look forward to having you online again in the next session, which it sounds like it's going to be early in the new year, Michelle. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
That's fine. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Thank you.